Welcome to Co-Creative Conversations from CoCreator Circle. We explore the power of connection, creativity, expansion, and innovation. Join us on this engaging podcast as we dive into an evolving consciousness of compassion with visionaries, entrepreneurs, change makers, artists, writers across the globe. They are from different fields, and all of them are not only talking their walk, but also walking their talk. From each conversation, we uncover insights, find pathways to our inner strength and creativity. And this is how we co-create a world that benefits all. Today, I am in conversation with Maria Milagros Kowalski and Sanchayika Mathur.
I am delighted to be in this conversation today with Shankaya Mathur. He's a Delhi-born and Toronto-based copywriter and poet. Her debut, Blooming from Burnt Soil, here I have it with me, is a collection of the prose and poetry she wrote during her frequent travels to warm, amber, morally gray, and optimistically dark emotional plains. For over a decade, Sanchayika has been solving business problems through headlines and personal problems through poetry. Somewhere along the way, writing became both her profession and passion. Her writing is a sum of all the salt lamps and scented candles amidst silent storms. It is a poetic meditation on human emotions and the magical nature of reality. Welcome, Sanchayika.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'd also love to take this time to introduce everyone to you. So Maria Milagros Kowalski is an author of Here I Am, Mother Earth. It's a woman's homecoming journey through poems, songs, and short stories. Maria brings harmony to women and spaces through her priestess and shamanic services. She serves as a teacher and guide to accompany women in their rebirth through online programs, one-on-one mentorships, and pilgrimages. She is a ceremony leader who offers womb healing and space clearing to clear stagnant energy and bring creative energy to people's lives. Maria is a messenger of the divine feminine. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. So here we are. I'm in Miami. I'm a girl, a woman from Venezuela, and you are in Toronto, Canada, and you're a young woman from Delhi, from India, and both poets. And you know, I love your book. I feel so connected, and I feel so much resemblance. And I started writing my book around your age. I'm 50, but I started writing around 30. And I when I was having that urge to publish a book, I was reading another book that was more an autobiography. But I said, let's just collect all the poetry that I've been writing for over the years. But it really amazed me, Sanchayika, that there's so many similarities to this. I call my book a homecoming book. And when I read also your bio, for me, writing is also the medium where I can solve my personal problems, where I can find myself, where I can come back home to myself. And I love how you wrote it. And I want to start by reading one of your poems and honor your art. I love the design for the people that are watching this. I love the title. Let's just start from the title, Blooming from Burnt Soil.
Yeah.
Is this an excerpt of one of your poems, or how did you come about with this title?
So it is an excerpt from one of the poems. it is also the title track, which is the first poem in this book. I think it is the whole poetry, the whole theme of this book was resilience and regrowth in more ways than one. And it's also a feeling of how Earth itself and how the nature around us is so magical that everything that we need to kind of resurrect is always available to us. So it is my personal experience from how healing happens and how Earth itself is in here to make us help us heal. Um, so that's where the book title came from. It's about blooming. We're one of the flowers, and we're blooming from as much burn that we feel. We can still bloom. We can be as burnt, but we'll still bloom because the earth's here to help us bloom. So that's where the title kind of came from.
Hmm. You know, my motto on my webpage is every woman came to earth to blossom.
Yes. Yes.
And so I would love to read your, please.
Oh, sorry. I actually was going through the work that you do, and I think I wanted to also know that you told me that you started writing when you were my age. I'd love to know how your writing has evolved over time, and when you sit down to write right now versus when you sat to write back then, what has been the constant thing and what has changed? I would love to know.
Absolutely. I will answer that and then we'll read that first poem, the title track.
Yeah.
So I did started writing when I was your age, some of this poetry, because I was going through my Saturn return. I started writing since I was a child, but this collection of poems, it really is a lifespan of 20 years. I had just coming out of that Saturn return, you know, when you turn 28, you have the planet of change and transformation, which is Saturn, comes around in your birth chart for the people that are familiar with astrology. And that means there's a lot of change that's going to happen. There's a big transformation. It's like the life is going to take you from where you were and take you somewhere else. And usually it's a very strong. Everybody remembers when you go back and you think, where was I when I was 27, 28, 29? Things were getting stirred up in our life. And so at that point, I had a romance that was ending, and I had also felt the need to go back to my roots, which is also something we talked about. And I decided to go back to my country. And after 13 years of being abroad, I face so many things. Going back to the roots is the most deep experience we can do. Even if we have not lived abroad, but just going into those roots, going into that underworld, there's a wealth of information that is there. And it's hard. For me, it was hard. And so it was also those growing pains, you know, coming out of your 20s is like when you step into the 30s, is like you start to assimilate. What were my 20s all about? And once I read that our brain is not wired to understand fully the consequences of our decisions until we're 25. So that explained a lot of my early 20s and my late teens. So writing my poetry when I was 30, I guess my poetry was very existential and finding answers and feeling very intense feelings and emotions of fear and also the divine, ecstatic. I also at that age, 28, I had a spiritual awakening that was beyond what I had never in my life experienced before. So I was writing about all of these very passionate, very deep. And as the years progressed, the passion and the intensity has been still there, but I also found home. I found myself. I found where I can bloom in a fertile soil, and I arrived. So there's the arrival aspect also in the poetry. I get inspired a lot by nature. It's been my path. The title of the book is Here I Am, Mother Earth, because she helped me heal so much. So many stories to share, you know?
Yeah. Yes.
And so I want to read your book, or you want to read the poem? Do you want to read it, or you want me to read it?
I would love if you do. I would love to know how people read my poetry.
So I would love to hear you read it, but I don't know if you have it available.
I do. Is it Traces of Terracotta that you'd want me to read?
Yes, then I'll read another one of yours, but let's start with that.
Okay, I'll do it. It's not my first time setting foot in a fire. I am gold as much as I am clay. And yes, I've taken a few steps to my west, but it's the world I seek, wherever I may stay. I do not flee any fate. I come bearing freedom. I'm not lost in this land. I come bearing wisdom. I bring sciences and spices. I bring pain and prizes. I bring art and ambition. I bring incense and inspiration. So let me celebrate this skin made of ancient sand. Let me shine it so you can see your future. I will tell you the tales of my legacy and land. For once, hear the truth, not the rumor. That's Faces of Terracotta. It's one of the most, it's a very, very dear part of my heart. Um, it was it was a time when I moved to Toronto from India, um, and I realized that the way an immigrant story is, it is so different how people perceive somebody who didn't come from the West, wasn't born in the West. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I was born in India, I was raised there, and so much of my learning, a part of my roots come from India, and it's the most powerful thing that I have. So it's a very important part of my heart, this poetry, this poem specifically.
This poem is so beautiful. I thought you were going to read title track, because that's where and then we were going to read that one, but it's perfect. Everything is perfect because you said the roots. I don't know if there's some cutting in the sound. I don't know if it's happening in the recording. I hope it's not. But you said your roots coming from India is the most important thing that you have.
Yeah.
You just said that. And you know, Sanchayika, I realized not so long ago, truly not so long ago, throughout all these years, because I left my home country when I was 18, which is Venezuela in South America. I realized now, 20 years later, after I, started writing poetry, I realized that all this time I was looking for my earth. I was looking for my home, And I truly realize and sympathize with the people that have had to leave their country and or their land. Like, I've worked with many Native Americans from the South and the North, and it's a big part of the work I do, the shamanic work. And these were people that were displaced from their land, especially here in the US. And I truly understood that the earth and the land gives us the power, the belonging, those connections, those relationships that we have with the seasons, how we grew up with these seasons, what fruits were in season, what food we cooked because we had those fruits, and what we celebrated, and the rituals. And then I realized that truly, wherever I go, my mother is the earth. Wherever I go, and I take from her what she's giving me, and I reclaim that sense of belonging, because our strength through that connection to our roots is the most important thing that we have.
Yeah.
And then it's like honoring those roots culturally and spiritually, but also the universal roots that we all belong to this earth, to this
Yeah.
abundant healing source of beauty and power, and in the most difficult times when my soul was becoming burnt,
Yeah.
there was a moment on those when I was 30, it was not 30 but 33, that I was without a home. I was not able to go back to my country because I was there and I realized there was a lot of turmoil and it was not my destiny.
Mm-hmm.
And my son was not with me. I had to send him with his father because I had to start again from scratch, again, move back to Europe. My heart was broken in so many pieces that I couldn't work. I didn't have a home. I didn't have a job. It's like, what am I going to do? And out of grace and audacity, also like survival instincts, I found a place for free. A new acquaintance gave me a studio where I could live. And I said, okay, let's do an exchange. And I was like, not clinically depressed, but like in a very low place. And one day I was in the garden. This studio was in a beautiful home with a beautiful garden. And I literally saw Mother Earth breathe. I saw the earth just like a big lung, just breathing in, breathing out. I couldn't believe my eyes that she was gifting me this vision. And I understood she was there with me,
Yeah. That's that kind of noticing, that kind of learning, that knowledge that Earth is living with us, it changes the game for us. It changes the way we look at ourselves and even think about future. It gives us the hope that it'll be okay. We have somebody taking care of us, and that it's not just the human beings we love, but the whole earth that we love and are ready to give her what she gives us. So it's beautiful. I almost got goosebumps. So that's a beautiful story. Thanks for sharing that with us. I'm pretty sure that wasn't easy, but thank you.
It was not easy. Rarely any initiations are easy, no?
Yeah.
You just have to surrender. And when you're so vulnerable, like
Mhm.
basic needs, you need a job and you need a house,
Yeah.
and you need family, and you're like in another country by yourself. Thank God I had lived there before, so I had friends, but still it was very dramatic. And there she goes, say, no, I love you. You're my daughter. I got you.
Yeah.
It's just, I got you,
It's wonderful the way she works.
It is so wonderful. And how did you become so connected? And is it something that you inherited from your grandma, your mother? How did you started connecting to the earth in this way that I can see in your poetry? It's so present.
I'm still trying to find the source of this awareness. I was born in the city. My life was very hectic and still is. I don't think I get the time to kind of go out in nature and really see the earth in action. But I know for a fact that it's ever present. It's very surreal. Um, I know that in the text that I read, in the kind of upbringing I have, we're supposed to, we're taught to worship the earth. Um, we, but the source is still surreal. I am being born and raised in the city. I don't know why I have this craving that every once in a while I want to be just in nature. And it's also very difficult for me because I am somehow very weirdly allergic to grass. So I have to kind of sit and find my way of connecting with the earth. And sometimes it's just in having seasonal fruits, seeing the earth change just by the bounty of fruits that we have, the ways the trees change color, how the skies change, how there's like a nick in the air when it turns a little cold, loving all seasons, even fall, which is considered to be the most transitional seasons for the earth. I think you cannot appreciate spring until you don't appreciate fall, because that's the journey the earth takes. So just my way of connecting with the earth is very different from a lot of other ways. Like people go hiking, people do gardening, and they're like in the mud. And while I love that, I know that my body doesn't allow due to allergies. So I find my own special ways of connecting with the earth, which is my trees. I love my plants at home. I take care of them. Um, they take care of me. That's it's a beautiful relationship. And then fruits and seasons and just watching the sunset, looking at the sky, just makes me feel like every day I'm connected to the earth in some way or the other, despite being a city.
That is true. And
Yeah.
even if we are in concrete, because that comes from the earth.
Yeah. It's
That's
another way
profound.
to do it.
I love how you explain that, Sanchayika. And are you aware that as the earth cycles her seasons, you are also cycling as a woman? When we talked before, when we met, it was beautiful to talk about our women's cycles. And you share with me something that I just adored. And I'll tell you why. First, you share with me that you talk to your brother, your little brother, and your dad about when you are in your menstrual cycle, no?
Yes.
And why I adore this, and I'll ask you more, is because my life path as a priestess of the divine feminine first started by me reclaiming what it meant to be a cyclical a woman, and reclaiming that I'm cyclical, that I'm ever changing, just like the moon. Taking times to rest while I am in that period during my menstruation, those days, asking for those days when at work, when I was working at an office. And it happened later in my life when I was like 37. Kind of started the calling like at 35, and then 36, 37, it started to become more, I received more consciousness about this, more awareness. And it shaped my whole life. And now seeing that someone like you, that comes from a different background, that is so young, and that and you said something that I love. You said, because my little brother, he needs to know how to treat a woman when he's older.
Yeah. He's actually
does.
It is important. I think it is my responsibility for the girls who come after me to feel that menstrual cycles are as natural as the sun and the moon and the air we breathe. It should be natural. They should love it, celebrate it, and never be made to feel off or weird about it. Um, and I feel incredibly blessed to have people around me who made me feel celebrated when that happened. For me, it happened a little late for me, but when it happened, everyone was there to support. Um, and I owe a lot of that to my mom. I owe a lot of that to my grandmother, who taught people around me to know how to help me when I'm going through that for the first time. And then it is my responsibility to make sure that the men in my family understand that women are empowered, know the fact that they're living with empowered beings, and be okay to have female role models. And so I have my father and my brother who look up to women and they want to learn from them, and it doesn't question their masculinity. And when I see that in my life, I feel like I have achieved something for myself and for the girls who come in my family after me. Um, so it is important to me. And I think that change begins at home. And I made sure at least that the people around me, the men around me, know how to live and empower already empowered beings, which we are as women.
I love that. I really, it's like music to my ears. So you had like a special rite of passage with your grandma, your mother. Was there like a celebratory rite of passage, or was it more just celebration, but not so outwardly?
Yeah, it was not so outwardly. It was just happy being a woman. Cheers. Now go to school. But it was as simple as that, and I think it is still yet very powerful. Uh,
Absolutely.
it just because as women, I think it's remarkable, magical, and almost I'm still trying to understand how for days together we bleed and still run the world like it should. So
It's really powerful. The waters of life. It's a
yeah,
miracle. It's a
it's
miracle. It's just it's fascinating. And do you think your grandma had that same initiation into womanhood? Do you think, or was it something then she shifted because she didn't have it and she wanted you to have it?
I don't think she did. And when I talk to my grandma, when I talk to my mom, I think I've been marginally luckier. Um, but that is why I feel like it changes from generation to generation. And I bear the fruits of my foremothers, their sacrifices and what they did. Uh, they worked so hard to make this world slightly easier for me. And it's my job to do that for the women who come after me. So it's a generation after generation of women working to make the world come back into balance that was always supposed to be. Um, so I don't think it was an instant thing. It took generations of women to get to where I am today, where I don't have to even think twice before saying menstruation. Like I don't bat an eye when I hear when I can just go up to my dad. I can just go up to my mom and then my brother and like, okay, I'm having serious cramps,
Yeah.
and that's it. I don't think twice. I can go and talk to anybody in my family about it without feeling awkward. And that is because my
Shame.
foremothers worked for it.
Absolutely, they did. But all
Yeah.
that shame around menstruation, all that unnatural, no,
Yeah.
unnatural a view of something that is natural, which is where we all come from, no?
Yes.
It's fascinating. For me, it's music to my ears, as I said.
Yeah.
So, it kind of brought me back to those moments of writing. And because you say it's really help you solve your personal problems and kind of understand yourself. And if I look back, there was something bigger holding me in place. There were moments that were so low and that had so many implications. Like, I think, what do you think about writing can really be a lifesaver? And literally can be a lifesaver.
Yeah. I think it can. Unprocessed thoughts are so they're so devious. They can really harm your health. And sometimes talking to people isn't easy. What made me start writing in the first place was how easy it was for me to speak to paper than it was to speak to a person. And then it just flowed easily. I was able to process my thoughts, and somehow I can process things in poetry better than just sitting and then going down into a rabbit hole questioning everything. When I write things into paper, everything becomes clearer. And it not only helps me, but it also probably helps somebody who's in a similar journey as me. So it saves lives, and it saves more lives than one, which I think is impeccable.
Absolutely. When it's shared, no?
It is shared, which is why it took me a very long time to publish this book. I was contemplating whether or not I want to be that vulnerable. But then I just took the plunge and I was like, maybe somebody else also needs to hear it. And that is why it is my responsibility to write what I think someone else can also resonate with. So I became a little open minded about it and then published my book.
Thank you for doing so. So who's the one writing when you're sitting down? Do you write with pen and paper, or you write with your what's your preferred?
I actually prefer pen and paper. Sometimes I do not have access to a nice little desk, and I want a nice little desk when I'm writing because it really troubles me if my writing's not going right. So I sometimes have to use my notes app. So it's a mix of, it's mostly writing on pen and paper, but then it is also sometimes the notes app, which I think I should embrace because we're all going into a more technologically forward way of life. Um, I love the earth, but and we also need to balance technology and nature together without making each other compromising.
Absolutely. That what you just said is the key to
Yeah,
a big prophecy of the condor and the eagle. They come
Yeah.
together, and they condor representing the love of nature and the earth, and the south, this is from the Americas, and the eagle representing the north, consciousness of advancement, technology, and they will fly together, they're meeting together. And that's a prophecy of our great grandfathers from South America.
wow.
They saw that vision that this time was coming, and look, you already have it inside of you. You don't have to learn it, you already know it as a new generation.
Yeah. It's beautiful. I didn't know this was prophecy, so thank you for letting me know.
Yes, you're part of it.
Yes, I'm
This is
glad.
what we're bridging. We're bridging these two continents, which is these two consciousness that are now emerging so that we can live a better life, the good life. But when you were saying about, because I also use my notes app, but also I write songs, and when I write songs, it's usually with my instruments, and they just flow for songs. But when I'm writing, whether it is with my pen and my notebook or my diary, or I'm typing it, there's this alchemy that happens. Like when the songs come, it's more like a flow. But when I'm writing, it's a different process. It's like things just fall into place. Even writing my newsletter that comes out, monthly, sometimes once a week. I don't have like a specific day. I just really process and finding how to communicate in the concise, powerful way. And it doesn't happen in the same way if I'm recording.
That is
If
true.
I need to take that space. You asked me before, like if I have a ritual when I start writing. A specific ritual for writing, I don't. Sometimes I just get like this download of inspiration. I'm like, oh, I need to write this. But when I do sit down to write, I make sure maybe I put an incense, a candle. I make sure I have the space has lots of light, and that I just ground myself, I center, and I just open. I open up for the creative in me and everywhere to just come through. And sometimes you do find that block and you're like that white page. So sometimes I'll tell you a trick. I start by painting. Sometimes I start by maybe doing something on Canva, that
Yeah.
app. And I like to put images and then, or video, I start there. And then sometimes I take that route. especially when it's like blank or I dance. I move the energy. When I'm in that blank page block, I could put a song and dance, or I just start painting. I love painting. Just really, not professionally, but I do love to paint.
That's wonderful. I wanted to ask you, I feel that when you know your roots, you end up growing more leaves. And then you went on to kind of live in the West and then also go back to your roots. You went to Venezuela. How did that that trip, the way you went down to understand where you came from, how did that help you have such a creative life? How did that help you in your work, and how did that impact your writing? Did you see a change in your writing after you went into that phase of discovery?
A lot of what I do is anchored in the ancestors. And so I would say that absolutely did help me, because I was searching. I was searching where I come from, who am I? That even was one of the reasons why I went to live in Spain, because my grandfather was from Spain and I never met him. So, because he died when my dad was too young, and I absolutely met everyone in the family there, the extended family. I found them. It was magical. So what we're looking for, it's also looking for us.
Yeah.
I brought the missing piece of the puzzle, and I met all his cousins that were still alive, and then I met their children and their grandchildren, and it was incredible, really. And that opened a pathway for my family in Venezuela as well. They all now have their European papers, green card, residency, citizenship. So it was a big opening. It did help me because I was searching, and my poetry, especially at that age, had a lot to do with that. And also because I also could feel, it's interesting, I felt different because I had different experiences from my family of origin. Let's say my mom, my dad, and my siblings.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody in my family left so early to live abroad in another country, let alone another continent. And nobody had the experiences I had. So that shaped me, and I wanted to share with them like this new person that I also am and became. So it was a contrast of first feeling different and then coming to terms that I'm not, yes, some things in my life experience are different, but some are just remain, some things never change. And so in discovering who I am, all of these kind of checking back with who I was growing up, what my family traditions, and then breaking away from that to kind of know who I am without belonging to the family, like who am I?
Yeah.
And then also coming to terms and having some reconciliation with who I am, because I am part of that family. And I will say lately, I've been feeling very connected to cooking. There's something about cooking, and that's part of the legacy of my mom and my grandma. And so I really feel it's interesting, it feels like this reconciliation with my country, with my roots. There was even shame at some point because there were so many wrong things happening in Venezuela with so much corruption. It's like, oh, do I belong to this? And so like embracing all of that, and really where we are born, it's very important. It has a lot to do. They say I have a teacher who says we have personal karma, we have the country karma, and the family karma. So it's like you inherited all of those. And I use these in my therapies, the work that I do with people.
Yeah, that's actually wonderful, because I know how important it is for me to stay connected with my roots, and it is also equally important for me to be thankful for where I am. Every place that I've ever been has been on the earth. And then that means that I am equally grateful for my Indian roots, and I'm equally grateful for this Canadian experience because it is shaping me right now. Uh, it's helping me discover myself, and self discovery is so important. Um, so, everything, all these experiences, whether it's knowing your roots, moving away from your roots, starting a new life at some other part of the earth, there's one thing that's remained constant, which is the earth. So that means that in the larger scheme of things, we're still very connected, no matter where we are.
Absolutely. I want to read to you a poem. I have here a translation, even though my book is already out in audio as of today.
Congratulations.
Super excited in Spanish because it's a book of poetry and songs. But I wanna read you a poem that is celebrating, talking about roots, celebrating. I wrote it in 2010. Was the first time. In 2005 was the first time I visited La Gran Sabana. It's a beautiful place in Venezuela that is pristine, is pure nature. There's no cities. It's where the Angel Falls are, the highest waterfall on the earth. And it was the first time I went there. And I got so many gifts for going back. I do not regret going back that time when it was hard, but it was also magical. I really loved it. And I want to read to you this poem. It's called Leaving Savannah. And let me just read it for you. Leaving Savannah, show me your colors, to sing them during the day, along with this melody that accompanies me when I remember you. My passion. Leaving Savannah, my being wakes up in the face of such wonder, divine architecture. Every piece of your fragile geography, my being admires and forces me to sing in harmony that love that nests in me. Leaving Savannah, you roar, wild mother, a fairy fury of sacred love everywhere. Your pulse, the drumbeat, the heartbeat of life that you harbor, galloping and buoyant. Indigenous women weave the Amazon feeling that turns green through its pores. Your melody, Savannah, a powerful symphony of the soft and slow opening of the orchid petals. When born from your womb of the dance of your waters, they run through you like a sigh. And the lovers moan while the grass dances with your breath. Mother moon, that you also care of the savannah, cradle my sorrows and give me light dreams of a star to guide them to the other shore, where the day is born again, the sun shines, a divine promise. The flowers grow, that with its aroma they bring me back to life. Oh, my savannah, always alive.
Beautiful. This was like a prayer. I love this. It's I love how connected you got. You almost spoke to her spirit, which is beautiful. It is. I'm so glad that you had that experience, and I hope I have a similar experience in my life one day. That's great.
You will.
Thank you.
You'll have that experience. You will have that experience in nature where you'll be able to, you already have, and many more to come. At 30, I wanted to ask you, what will you say? Right now, we are here in this circle. In the center of this circle is the great mystery, is this big, expansive miles of land between Miami and Toronto. I'm here sitting at the 50 marker. I'm 50. And you're across me, you're 30. And I see you and I see me when I was 30. And I can be a mirror for you for when you're older and you're 50.
Yeah.
What question would you like to ask what question would you ask your 50-year-old self that will help you today?
One of the questions which has always been important to me, I think, are you happy? It is so important. And I hope that you're still discovering yourself. 50 is just another number. You have a lifetime ahead of you. Um, how are you enjoying ending your menstrual cycle, hopefully? It's a beautiful time. Are you happy? Are you healthy? Are you at peace? And are you excited? I think these are the questions that I would want to ask. It's important to me now, and I'm pretty sure it'll be important to me then.
Pure emotion. My soul.
It's beautiful.
Thank you for being so profound and special.
Thank you.
And I would say, as if I was your 50-year-old self, I am happy. But it took me some work. It really did. It took some work to get here, but I don't regret. I have a few regrets, maybe, that I would have done different, but I accept because I didn't know.
Yeah.
And in this not knowing, that's where the wisdom came. Because as you walk, how can you know how it's going to be if you've never gone through
Yeah.
those stages in your life? I am happy, I am hopeful, I'm filled with energy. And I understand that as the earth changes, I'm also changing. And so I try to keep my inner child very happy because she's the source. She likes to create, she likes to dance. So if I don't give her that, if I don't give that to myself, then I can't be happy.
Yeah. I look at you and I feel hopeful and positive. You're so wonderful. It almost makes me feel excited to be 50 because I look at you, there's this beautiful background, and I'm like, wow, that's exciting. And then the work that you do, that is exciting too. You work with women, um, and I feel that by the time I turn 50, I'll have so many resources to kind of help me through because women like you are working to get me there. So thank you for doing that. And it's beautiful. I really appreciate the work that you do.
So much. And that's exactly what we're doing. We are advancing, we're walking this wheel of life with authenticity, listening to our hearts and our wounds, honoring ourselves and honoring Creator, and really just opening other paths that are more green, more wild, so that can also be a path that could be charted for the ones that are coming. And so I also thank the ones that came before me. For example, Meenakshi from CoCreator, who's also as my senior to me of some years. So it's and so this is the real source where we can all nourish ourselves so we can bloom, so we can remember and know that definitely I am not the first one opening this path. I was able to open and arrive because other women and men also opened this path. And just to give it a closure, I would really love to know. I don't want to end the call, but I want to hear from you. What is your take on gender equality and about gender, because I've seen many kids now, they don't think in gender that much. It's like, well, I've heard this, I've had this feedback from many young people. And so I would just like to know your take on gender equality. Yeah.
Yeah, I think belonging to this generation, I think all gender identities need to be celebrated. We're here in this world where things are so beautiful and diverse. And I think it is important. I've seen so much work happening when it comes to women empowering themselves and each other for generations together. I think there's still a long, long way to go for all genders to come together, know that each of them is empowered, and try not to dull each other's shine. Shine as bright as we help other people shine. It is so important. Um, and that is one way to make sure that we're promising a good future for those who come after us. Uh, Accept various gender identities, accept the fact that each of them is empowered, and that gender is one of the most important things in people's personal identities, but it's not the only one. So celebrate individuality as much as possible. So that is important to me. Like empowering each other, being kind and compassionate to everybody. It's the start of something.
Absolutely. Are we going to see more women president just to bring that, that balance? You have a woman president in your country.
Yeah, well, I was born and raised in India, and I don't think this is the first time. This is actually not the first time we've had a female president. This is the second time, and it makes me hopeful. Um, Not just president, but women in power. It is important because that's how the world will work. That is how we ensure continuity of this world, by making sure all voices are heard, every voice. And like, I feel that we deny ourselves of capability, we deny ourselves of actually standing a chance of letting somebody who knows their job do it, just because we let their gender come in between. We are depriving ourselves of actual work by by restricting ourselves based on gender. So I do see a world where all genders would be celebrated because they're capable of being celebrated.
It's been a pleasure, Sanchayika, talking to you. Why don't we finish by reading the poem? There's two I wanted to read also. The short one, Seasons Changed.
Yeah.
I'll read it.
Sure.
Yeah. And then one day, the grim gray skies suddenly roar at the sound of spring. Months passed and the fallen leaves didn't feel like a morbid thing. Then came the frost and the cold in the air. Didn't phase this fire within. I saw it all, how the seasons changed, and a new end just had to begin.
This is one of the most prolific things I feel I have written. It probably, I can never pick favorites in what I've written, but I saw how one year I celebrated all seasons because I did the work to see the beauty in them. Um, and I am so glad that the earth is such a living, breathing, beautiful thing, that I'm able to appreciate her beauty and love her seasons.
And thank God seasons end and seasons begin, because
Yeah.
we don't want to be stuck in one emotion forever. So good things come, bad things will come, they will end too. Good things will also end, but always that cycle.
Yeah.
And just to close, will you read the title track for us, the page 7?
Absolutely, I'll do that. This is the first piece of my work in my book. It's called the title track, which is based on the title of my book, Blooming from Burnt Soil. Here it goes. I remember how you bloomed from burnt soil, with a glass of wine raised, the cloudy sky they gave you, and the sunlight you chased. I saw you soaring like a firework through their rainy, dark sky. I saw your eyes shining with dreams once your tears ran dry. This is the title track. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sanchayika. So beautiful. I think we can have another conversation another day.
Yes, absolutely.
So much to share.
Yeah.
May we continue to have poets being birthed on this earth, because poets are the writers of the beauty, of the depth, of the magic that not everyone sees, and we need that view in order to just broaden our life experience on this earth. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Many blessings on your book and all the books to come and all the paths that you will walk. Thank you for sharing with me and for the gift of being you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for doing all the wonderful work that you do. Thank you.
Namaste.
Thank you both so much. This has been such a treat. I've been behind the scenes, and I don't know if you could sense I was smiling and smiling. And just my heart was opening so beautifully. The two poets have come together and shown how you can bridge ages and continents and sensibilities, and to show that oneness, the connection with the earth in so many different layers, the consciousness of the earth, which is everywhere. And both Maria and Sanchayika, I would love you to present some courses that you have. Sanchayika, you may not even know, but you have a course there for our Ground to Soar program, which helps people to grow their co-creator consciousness. And everything you've been talking today is about that. Thank you both so much for this wonderful conversation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Meenakshi. Very special. I would like to share that in August, we will open registration for the Shamanic Medicine Wheel of La Musa for all women. It's going to be part 1 of a year training into priestess, shamanic priestess. And we will have 2 courses ongoing. We'll open the English and the Spanish on different dates so that we can accommodate that. And just very excited after a big period of just integration. I'm coming back to teaching this course. But now it became from 7 weeks to a year program.
That's wonderful.
Very, very excited about that.
Beautiful. I highly recommend it, having been one of the graduates of the previous one. It's a beautiful course. Thank you.
Thank you so much.